So everyone, thanks and welcome. I am Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, and I'm welcoming you to another interview in a series we started some months ago when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out. We call this series Our Stories, Our Time. And in this series, we're interviewing nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through the challenges of these current times. So we strongly believe that by way of telling our stories, we are chronicling the experience of organizations and really taking stock of what is happening in our communities. We're making an effort to capture brief stories coming from all types of organizations and from the people who lead them. Now, again, if you're watching us live, welcome. And you're more than welcome to leave a comment or ask a question, and we'll do our best to integrate it into our conversation. And today we are so lucky to have the Executive Director of Operation Jumpstart, Irene Quevedo. Irene, welcome. And I know you and I have been playing email tag for a while, trying to get this interview up and running. I'm so thrilled it's finally here.
Me too. Thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here. So thank you so much. I'm excited. We're finally doing this.
Awesome. I think that's why we started just a tad earlier. We were like, come on, we've been talking about this for a long time. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So Irene, for those folks who don't know about Operation Jumpstart, tell us a little bit more about what the organization does.
Great. So Operation Jumpstart has been in Long Beach just over 25 years. We celebrated 25 years just this past year. And boy, what a 2020 we've had. We had just reached that milestone, just celebrated, had a large gala, and lots of hoopla around that. And now here we are experiencing a global pandemic. We were started at a time when our two founders, a couple that are from Long Beach, they really wanted to see a change with communities of minorities in Long Beach that were not graduating from high school even. It was about high school dropout rates being way too high. And it was right after the Rodney King beating and the subsequent riot. So here we are so many years later and dealing with a lot of the same social issues. But they started this knowing that education is a sure way to change your trajectory and your family's legacy. And so our founders, Walt and Diane Zenda, started this small and mighty mentoring program. And here we are today now, 25 years later, hundreds of students have been through our program. We're a college access and success program now. So it's not only about getting kids out of high school, but getting them to and through college. So we are a long-standing program. Students start in the 8th grade and they're with us until they get their college degree. The only requirement is that they go to a Long Beach school. They've got to go to a Long Beach Unified School District school. They are the first in their family that is pursuing a college education. And we do have a low-income requirement. So we want to really reach the students that need these resources. The resources include the one-on-one mentoring, tutoring, exposure to a broader world, meaning a lot of enrichment activities, a lot of academic advising. We have an awesome social work team, so we do some social emotional work with all of our students. And again, it's 8th grade through college completion. So those are the services, and that's a little bit on our history.
Wow. So what Operation Jumpstart is doing, I mean, it's not just providing that mentoring and that school-based support, but you have kind of these other services that are there available for students who really could use that additional help, right? And for their families as well. So it's kind of like this, in some ways, this holistic approach or this very well-rounded approach to engaging and making sure that young people are staying in school and that they're thriving and that they're ready for that next chapter.
Absolutely. So one of our, we're really proud of the longevity of our program, as well as we like to say the whole child. We want to service the whole child in the sense that it's not just about good grades. It's really about life exposure. What have they done throughout high school that, sets them apart? And in a lot of ways, it's just exposure to anything different. We've done an event where the kids are out having sushi for the first time and riding a surfboard and having surfboard lessons. And surfing is something our students don't necessarily grow up with. So it's just great to have that exposure and set them apart and give them that comfort to do something completely different. But also our families had that same experience. So we do a lot of family workshops. We do a lot of family engagement. We have something called Family Academy. So as our students are preparing to go to college and getting all the nuts and bolts that it would require for you to get ready, like your SAT testing, SAT test prep, I should say. You know, they're getting Toastmasters training. They're getting a lot of enrichment. Parents get it as well. So they come and they meet at our office and they have dinner with us and they get to hear from university representatives and they get to sort of go on this journey with their students so that they can all become comfortable with the idea of being the first in their family to do this. And it's just been really fulfilling to see our families as engaged as they have been.
That's great. I would imagine that a lot of what you do, especially because you're engaging parents, there's a multilingual approach, right, to the way that you engage them as well.
Absolutely. So English and Spanish and combined. So we're always engaging our community with those three languages, making sure that everything that goes out in writing accommodates different languages and language learners. And it's really important for us because we know it ups the engagement and the attendance if folks feel comfortable and they understand and you're speaking to them in a language they're comfortable with. So we've absolutely made those accommodations. We engage partners to get this done. We've worked with multiple organizations. Long Beach Unified School District has partnered with us for our, family programs. The YMCA has partnered with us. We have a longtime board member that is a board member also of the YMCA who's been super supportive for our family engagement program, teaching workshops herself. So it's just been really great to see the whole community care so much about the parents and the whole child, as I said earlier.
Generally, what is some of the feedback you get from parents? I would imagine that a lot of these parents, because of some of the background that they have, that they are probably at a stage in their life where their children have probably superseded some of their own levels of education, right, as adults. What's some of the feedback that you're getting from parents about this program and what it does for them? But also, what does it do for the whole family unit? Because I would imagine there's also younger siblings who are watching, right?
Yeah, we love it. We love it. We've had parents that have gone back to college because of this experience, them being in our program. We had one parent many years ago speak at one of our events that she ended up pursuing her master's degree because she didn't want to get left behind. She saw that both of her children went through our program. Her oldest son was the first to the entire family to pursue a BA, and so she followed suit. So it was really exciting to see that. But even in a more humble approach, we have a lot of our families that are just so grateful for the knowledge and for the time and for the extra love and support that their students receive. They are often willing to volunteer. They're often willing to do whatever it takes, roll their own sleeves up and help at events. They'll show up, they'll want to clean up. And it's like, no, this is for you, all free and for you and for the students. And it's really great to see that they're just happy to be a part of our community and our bubble. And it's a really positive bubble. It's a really positive community because you know that you're going to come to our environment and it's all about you can do anything. You can become anything. Your kids can go to college as far as they'd like, as close as they'd like. They can dream it up for them, and we're going to help them achieve that college dream. And of course, parents want that for their children as well, that they are branching out, and there's a lot of support, and there's a lot of fears that we have to deal with. Yeah. A lot of fear that, I've never been there, I've never done that. Is this a scam? Is college a scam? It can be scary at the same time. So us meeting them where they are and sort of easing all those fears has really been a big impact. It's always the parents that come back and say, I was a skeptic, but this has changed my student's life. Mentors the same. Mentors volunteer with us. We are always onboarding volunteer mentors. And they say they think that they're here to help the child and to change a child's life. And after 2 to 3 years, in some cases 5 years working with a student, They realize that the student changed their life. And the student taught them so much. And the student has evolve their worldview and their perspective, and that's very satisfying to see.
So for even some of your volunteers, like these mentors, for example, they are in it for the longer haul. Maybe they don't imagine that they will be, but they get involved and really into the program.
Yeah, it's hard to go away. You feel that, okay, they're going to graduate high school and that's that. Oh no, we got to see them graduate college. Well, no, I got to see it through for the first internship. They're your lifelong friend. It's not over, but we ease them into it. They think it's a year or two, and then they themselves don't want to go away. We've had mentors that have had 2 to 3 students back to back, 5-year commitments, 15 years working with different high schoolers in Long Beach and seeing it through. So it's a very fulfilling role.
And I think the work that organizations like Operation Jumpstart do and the program model that you follow in so many ways must be based on national best practices too, because there's a lot of research out there that shows that young people really need to build not just, a pathway to academics and education and those opportunities, but it's the social capital. And I think sometimes we don't really think about that, right? That young people really need to build on these networks for themselves. And quite honestly, I think to your point, Irene, these are relationships that take them through many years of school or, as they're becoming young professionals as well. I bet you see quite a bit of that too.
Absolutely. In fact, it's one of my favorite parts of the job. When I first started OJS 10 years ago, I was a case manager. I was just, very entry level, and I worked my way up. And back then, our mission statement was a little different. And as we evolved and I grew in the business and the organization grew, and from being a 5-year program to a 10-year program, we added the line about not only do we provide mentoring, but also exposure to a broader world, because we realized that the work we were doing was more than the academic advising, more than the mentoring, but the way that we were expanding our students and their lives. And we instituted traveling college tours. So kids were on the plane the first time ever in their life with us, going up to visit Stanford.
Wow.
We instituted sort of outdoor experiences. So we took our students to the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago. And it was really great to see, because most of our staff, in fact, all of our staff right now, first generation college students themselves, our board president as well, they, with us, with our organization, they will go for the first time to somewhere like the Grand Canyon or visit Stanford University, and they're saying, my goodness, OJS is expanding my world. But it's such a great part of what we do, because I say to the students all the time before they get to college, it helps you feel like you belong once you're in college. If you've just been able to see more of the world, have more experiences, put yourself out there. We'll do stuff like horseback riding. We took the kids to do archery recently, and I had my daughter tag along. I thought, well, she's never shot a bow and arrow. I want her to do it with the OJS kiddos. And so these kiddos have these experiences where they can own the room differently if they feel like, sure, I've done things, I've been places, I know people, right? And it's no fault of their own if they're in a network that's much smaller at the beginning. But it's all of our jobs and responsibility to expand that network as those years go on, and their confidence in themselves.
Yeah. And that there's quite a bit of research that shows that really goes a long way. It goes a long way to cement yourself, as you're young and you're really kind of trying to figure out, what pathways do I take? Where do I, kind of experiment with this option or that option? Having those relationships to guide you along the way is critical. So all the kudos to Operation Jumpstart. So Irene, here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and share with us, what happened in the few weeks after the stay-at-home orders were issued. We've heard of organizations, obviously everybody had to make adjustments of all sorts. What did that look like for Operation Jumpstart?
It was absolutely scary in so many ways, because we thought one of the biggest parts of our job is what I just talked about. Being with our students, being together, being on trips, academic advising that happens one-on-one, events that happen on site. And we thought, if we close our doors, it completely changes our program. Our one-on-one tutoring, we're an after-school center. Our kids come to our tutoring to grab bus passes and dinner in most cases. And so at first it was scary, because we thought, we can adapt. We can adapt to technology. We can take things to Zoom. Parents can call into Zoom, like they would call anybody else. We'll make it work. And we have the best staff and the best board, and they were willing to make it work. But we were scared that we were going to lose students, that their interests would suddenly change, and that the place that they were so comfortable and feeling like a second home almost, it being not there, would they go away? So we did have those fears early on, but we didn't miss a beat. We quickly sort of moved, like everyone else, towards Zoom, and staff was able to work remotely. In the onset, we did lay off some of our part-timers. They started to work half-time, especially our program coordinator. As you can imagine, there are no programs. What is there to coordinate, right? Our tutoring coordinator, boom, half of her time is like, there's no tutors on site. There's nothing to oversee. But we were some of the lucky organizations that were out there. We applied for a PPP loan. We got it right away. And I thank our lucky stars, because the first thing we did, and our board was incredible about this, is bring everybody back to work. Because there's work to be done. We just needed time to pivot and to figure out how, and to see how the granting world would adapt as well, and our grantors. We've been blessed to receive still great grants at this time. We were expecting some big funding news right when this happened, right when shelter in place was announced, and a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later, we got the news, we got the grant, and grantors have been great. They understand that if we were expecting dollars, we still need them, even if we're adapting every single day. So we've been blessed to get our people back to work. Our staff were only furloughed half of the time for only about 5 weeks at the beginning of this thing. We have now kind of become this well-oiled machine. We're online. Board meetings are much smoother. At first it was chaos, and we've settled into different programs, and Skype for the board and Zoom for the staff. We use Slack, and we've always used Slack, which is great. We love Slack, and we're so happy that that tool was in place. We already had all the stuff saved on Google Drive, so we've embraced Google even more. So it was a bit of a scary territory. Funding, we were afraid, could dry up. We didn't know how that was going to play out. We got the PPP loan, which protects, our staff's payroll, so folks are working again, which is great. And then we just got into a groove with programs. So tutoring started to happen online, and workshops are happening online, and now our mentor trainings, volunteer trainings, happen online. Parent Academy, so our Family Academy, that's also online. Staff at first were tentative. They thought, how am I going to get a parent to log in? And I said, get them to call. Let's meet people where they are, but let's make this expectation, because the district made that same expectation. We should not sell people short by any means. They should be expected to attend and get something really great out of this. So our standards had to change. We really put a lot on folks showing up for a Zoom call and making the time to show up for a Zoom call. So it's been an interesting time to navigate, and we're just happy that we have an amazing board that is so supportive, always putting the staff first, that love being engaged themselves. Our board is very hands-on. About half of them are either mentors or have been mentors. In fact, I think more than half of them now. So as volunteer mentors, really get the secret sauce. You really love this work because you get the students and the families. So our board has been incredible. And if you're listening and you feel like you really want to engage your board and that maybe not them and you want them there, I say these webinars that have appeared and popped up are a great way to engage them. Get them to go to a webinar about how to handle this. I mean, TMP, shameless plug for you, but you all were the first. You were the first to have so many great webinars. And my board attended. My board has already been a huge fan of TMP, and they go to the in-person events that you used to have. So they started attending the webinars, which was huge because you need something to keep people engaged, new ideas, fired up, feeling like other people are going through the same thing you're going through. So that helped us as well because it made us feel like everyone's in the same boat. Everyone has the same fears. Everyone's adapting. So let's just adapt. So it's been an interesting time, but we're pretty proud of our efforts so far.
That's awesome. As you're telling the story, I'm so moved by how bold you are with, yes, it was a challenge. Yes, we had to deal with it, but we made it work. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I could also hear it in your voice and in your approach. Very grateful for those funders who said, we get you, we understand, and we're going to pivot with you as well. So gosh, a big thumbs up and a big thank you to those foundations and those grantors that are supporting so many nonprofits through the difficult time, and a big shout out to your board, because I know how hardworking they are and how they take their job very seriously, to be very strategic, and also, kind of like layered on top of the pandemic is now layered on top of the usual governance work anyhow. Now there's this real sense of urgency to act, right? Yes. And to kind of be very mindful about how you act. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Irene. Curious to see, because, we have been talking to other youth serving organizations too, how the participation has been from the students and their parents. We've heard of some challenges of folks, kind of really adapting to technology. I think for the most part, young people are right there. They're using it. But how has that engagement been? And then I think question B on that one, or a follow-up question for you, is what are you seeing and what are you hearing as far as the engagement in school? I know school is over, but what was that like ending the school year?
It was interesting because I felt that originally our parents weren't as responsive, and we were worried. We were very, very worried because we thought, if they're not responding to us, are they responding to the needs of the student in the classroom, and how this whole new world might feel demanding and might feel so foreign to them. So we originally started to look for grants that would support us in safely finding a way to get in front of our families. Any excuse to get in front of them, even though we all needed to keep distance. For emergency purposes, you can get in front of your families. So we were very blessed. The Long Beach Community Foundation gave us a grant to provide emergency support to our families. So we did a drive-through event, and we had toilet paper. Early on, that was valuable. We had cleaning supplies. We had a ton of hygiene supplies for the family. We had art supplies, and we just put the call out. And it was texts, and it was emails, and it was phone calls, and a lot of families came. And of course, we did a drive-through that was very safe. Everyone was required to have masks. Everyone was required to stay in their car. Myself and my husband did it. I didn't want my staff engaged in that handoff early on. I thought, I'll take the ultimate liability. But we really were using this as a...
You survived it, thank God.
Right? At first I was so scared. I well, I don't want to force them, but it was just a matter of thinking creatively. And that the grant that came through. And I don't want to take dollars from other organizations that needed to feed folks. You know what I mean? So we asked for a small amount to just give basic things and Target gift cards, and our family showed up. And I thought, them seeing me in my t-shirt at the office, it's like, we're still here. We love you and we care. And so that was early on. And then we dangled some carrots back then. We said, we have some great programming coming up. You can look forward to la la la. And we gave out calendars, and we did what we had to do because we saw that at first there was a drop in engagement. Zoom has still been a challenge for us, honestly. Our attendance on Zoom is not what our attendance was in person, and part of it is going to come with the territory.
Yeah.
We did an inventory with how kids were doing with Chromebooks, laptops, what did they need, how do we set them up. Human IT in Long Beach, I don't know if you're familiar with Human IT, but they do great work. And our graduating class last year got all free Chromebooks, and it's an ongoing partnership. And so we were quick to be in communication with them and just make sure that if we needed more Chromebooks, is that something they can make happen, and how quickly did we need to turn that around. And we're now thinking about even adapting our lab on site to make it safer and open up as soon as possible. Just so that students can use all the technology that we have on site. We have a computer lab, and it's just kind of collecting dust. So we're going to make modifications to improve engagement, because overall we know there was a drop. And we were hearing from our school representatives that the same thing was happening for them.
Yeah.
We lost some folks in this process. We have mentors, so it's an extension of staff, and we just ask mentors to get really creative and do anything possible to get in front of their students. And so we had mentors that were mailing care packages and then would call students on FaceTime to open them together. It's kind of dangling something, and yeah. We did our, we gave away some gifts today. That's why I'm wearing my t-shirt, and it's a touch point, a safe touch point. Met with all of our seniors. Our staff is out today meeting with all of our seniors. I'll talk about it a little bit later. We have this great event going on tomorrow, but we are creating interface with the parents and the students safely. Minimal, but that in-person touch point, I think, fuels the sort of next 3 to 4 weeks of show up to Zoom. And it's maybe 1 or 2 meetings. It's not a lot, but it's helping. So we had to do a bit of a hybrid where we couldn't fully disappear, but we did have to take a step back. And for everybody's safety and for staff safety, of course.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of lessons learned, it sounds like, from that period of transition that you're just describing, especially as you could really see the challenges, right? The challenges in continued engagement. So Irene, as schools are, talking about what reopening is going to look like, and I think in the last week particularly, the state has been hit pretty hard with a resurgence, unfortunately, of more cases, and I think it's kind of slowing down a little bit some of the energy that was there maybe a few weeks ago around, okay, this is how we're going to reopen, this is what phased reopening looks like. And it's not that those plans are on the back burner again, but what may happen is things may actually start to slow down. Yeah. So what what do you think what do you think the approach is going to be from educational institutions, understanding that, this online engagement is not going to get all of the students, obviously, that need to be in there, but what are some of the initiatives you think, schools and organizations like yours are going to take on in order to keep the engagement with young people and with families, in the coming months? We're in the summer now, but we're heading into the fall semester. So what is that going to look like, you think?
I think it's critically important to meet folks where they are, and we need to adjust for the most at need first. That's where I think the adjustment needs to be made. So whatever that requires, we need to do. So from an organizational standpoint, I feel that that's what our responsibility is, and I would hope that's the response from the district. And I know it's a tricky situation, but there are options that are thrown out of hybrid models where students get some interface, they get interface that's very minimal, and they have to completely work independently at home. Now, I think for the most at-risk populations, that time that's at home is harder to come by. It's harder to accomplish what you want to accomplish if you're in a lower income home. Your parents have to go to work. They're essential workers. Childcare is an issue. There are all these mounting issues for the population that we serve at OJS. So we've got to meet their needs. We've got to meet their needs. So this school district can't tackle it all, and I know that everybody's doing the best they can, but there are lots of considerations for students just having their basic needs met, and that's even just access to free technology, and a lot of people have answered the call, and we are feeling like our office needs to open in some capacity, in a safe capacity, longer hours, less kids here, but we're open for business all day long, 8 to 8, and that way we can scatter kids through, and they have internet, paper, printers, tablets, computers, and I feel like if all of us sort of did that, we all made the adjustments that we need to meet kids where they are, we're going to solve this somewhat. There's a lot to be done, and we have our kids that they'd love to go back to school tomorrow for the social component, and there's all these adjustments that we have to make, but we have to be safe first and foremost, healthy first and foremost. So I think meeting them where they are, making the adjustments, thinking about the most at need and what they need. If they're hungry, how are they learning? How are they succeeding? So food is something that can be an essential that can be provided for all at some basic level. And I think those are the small questions that need to be answered moving forward. What are the basic needs, and how do we surround our students with those needs? And I think we'll be better off if we could just make sure that this isn't costing those that are hardest hit the most, because it's going to be the hardest thing to come back from. For us, it's dropout rates. High school dropout rates, we've never had to worry about them. In the beginning, yes. The last 10 years, our kids didn't make it to high school. Now it's a very serious consideration that our students may drop out of high school if things don't get better. College, absolutely. We have students that are worried about going back to college or feeling like they have to work. I mean, the economic setbacks that this has created for our families, we have so much work to do. We have 30 graduates graduating that are headed off to college this year, seniors, and more than ever, students have chosen to maybe pick a safety school and not their mid-range school and not their dream school, which we already know they're already choosing just below, but it's the climate. It's the climate that we're in, and we're going to do everything to support them, but we do feel for them. Students are not going away. I mean, it makes sense next year because you're kind of like, there's no dorm to go to anyway. But still, we're watching them make decisions that are much, much safer in scale, and they've worked so hard. They've worked so hard to be able to go away, and going away might just be a school up north, but now that dream is a little bit smaller. And so our biggest fear is, and that becomes, what's the next level of safe? Oh, maybe I'll just defer. Or maybe I'll just start. Our students can't afford gap years. Kids in OJS, they don't do gap years. They don't get to be at home finding themselves and taking up a hobby. They need to be in school. They are so focused, and they're so hungry, and they're so driven, and they have so much grit, but they need what they need, which is thriving in school. So we have to meet them where they are and remember that they're going to need a lot if they're reducing their own standards, their own goals and dreams because of everything going on.
Wow. Thanks for that insight. Because I think those of us not inside these educational systems wonder, how is this going to work out? How is this going to work out for young people and their families, actually, given that everyone's been impacted. And I think what you're illustrating right now is the real day-to-day impact that young folks are faced with, actually. And it's so interesting, but even having to go back and recalibrate those decisions. I mean, their generation is experiencing something that for a long time, generations have not really had to, right? At least not in recent history. So, wow, talk about grit. Wow. So, Irene, you are talking about something that, we all know, the pandemic has really hit everybody in so many different ways. And they're because of what we're seeing in our country right now as well. We're having very active conversations around systems that truly need to change. The response, the institutional response to inequity, how we really need to look at the impact and how we actually allocate resources to make sure that we're allocating resources to see the outcomes we need to see in our communities. As an executive director of an organization that is serving primarily really low-income students, and I think the majority of your students are Latinos, they're African American, they're Cambodian American. So, what do you hope to see for your students and their families as, the country's really taking a look at, I think, its conscience and how it does what it does and how it's going to, I think, come back or respond to changes. What are your hopes? What do you want to see for them in the coming years?
Honestly, I just really hope that our students harness this time and own it, because that's the most beautiful part of them. Our seniors, especially our juniors, we just did scholarships for our students. They had to write essays about, their community service, their giving back, their engagement in the US of A. One of the prompts is something about, tell us about your favorite line in the US Constitution. And now more than ever, what are they feeling? What are they thinking? Is this country truly theirs to own, to change, to prosper in? This is so at peril right now. And I feel that we have the best students to change this system and everything broken with it, but they've got to get through. The system's got to let them in. And with this pandemic, there's really a road here that they could go one way or another, and I want them to stay on the road that's believe that you can change the system, believe that we need more of us that look like us, that sound like us. As a Latina, as the CEO of OJS, I'm super proud of that, because when I started 5 years ago, I've been with them 10 years, but 5 years ago as the CEO, it was an all-white board and mostly white males. And I'm sitting there thinking, really? How did I get this job? But I shouldn't have been thinking that. I should have known that I had earned that job and I belonged there. And soon enough, I got that confidence and I had the respect that I deserve, but there should be more people sitting next to me that look like me. And I'm glad to be the example for our students. Of course, no doubt, they got to see that. And now the board looks very different. There are more women on their board. We are more diverse. The board really had thought about this some time ago, that there was no way they could be the voice of an organization that serves underrepresented youth, and they had no one underrepresented on the board. They didn't even have enough women. They're mostly males. So those small changes make a huge impact. So today we can make a decision from a standpoint of women's voices. We have African Americans on our board, Cambodians on our board, Latinos on the board. I mean, it's fantastic to have that representation, because we absolutely needed it. And so what I want for our young people is that they can see themselves in our board, so they can then see themselves in other boardrooms, right? They can see themselves in their mentors, who are now also a very diverse population of mentors that have walked all different walks of life. In fact, the event that we have tomorrow at Scholars Day, we have an African-American male, the Chancellor of UC Davis, speaking. We have a woman, the President of Cal State Long Beach, speaking. And then we have the Dean of Moreno Valley City College, a Latino male. And I just thought that just sort of was life. It just manifested and worked out. But our students can be at this celebration and see themselves and think, I can be the president of a university. I can be the chancellor of a university just like him. So it starts with us modeling, leading by example, and using the students and their voices. I do feel they're the advocates for tomorrow. And boy, these are some scary times. It sounds all, easier said than done, but they have it. They have the grit. They've already seen all these injustices, and we just want to empower them to know they can change it. And we're going to stay on that message, as we think that's the most positive and empowering.
Absolutely. And young people are attuned to that message too. I think they're hungry to make sure that they're also, like, yes, to your point, they can see themselves in that change. But I think they're ready to contribute to it as well. Irene, tell us more about tomorrow's event.
Oh, I'd love to. So Scholars Day is an annual event, and we've been doing it for so many years, the Long Beach Yacht Club. All of our high school seniors are celebrated, as well as our college graduates. So tomorrow night at 6 via Zoom, and you can get more information at the Operation Jumpstart website. So it's operationjumpstart.org. Or if you want to go specifically to the site about this event, it's scholars.ojslb.org. And you can register to attend our Zoom event, first time on Zoom. It's going to be an incredible event because we have alumni that are graduating college coming back as MCs. We're giving away several thousands of dollars in college scholarships to our seniors. We've done this every year for many years. And we're going to have inspiring keynote addresses. I just rattled off the folks that we have there. Our staff, they work so hard, so we do some showcasing of our staff. But we celebrate our students and our parents primarily. And all of our seniors deserve all the love they can get. They had a lot of the fun stuff taken away from senior year. So there was no way we weren't going to do Scholars Day big. So they've got these really awesome gifts that they're opening tomorrow that include college gear for the colleges that they're going to, college pennants. It's going to be a really good time on Zoom. And it's our annual event. It's a big deal to us, to continue those traditions, even if it's the way we are meeting today. So we hope that folks will, tune in on Instagram. Our Instagram is Jumpstart, OP Jumpstart LB. And you can get more information about the event tomorrow, or just kind of follow along because there's going to be a lot of fun activity. And we've got a lot of fun things going on today. We're dropping off senior gifts. It's just been a really good time.
That's right. You and the team have been busy today.
Yes.
Out and about.
Dropping off gifts. Such a good time dropping off gifts. Yeah, they've got their masks. We've got our masks. It's sort of a distance photo, but it's so great to always see them with their pennant. We're usually the first to give them college gear and to just shower them with love. And again, it starts there. They see themselves in that experience.
That's right. So again, tomorrow's event, which is, I will remind everybody, a fundraiser. So if you can, please support Operation Jumpstart. But it's going to be broadcast live on Instagram. Is that right, Irene?
We'll be on Facebook Live
like
this, and it starts at 6 on Zoom if you want to register for the event. Again, you can find it, on our website or our Instagram. And it definitely is a fundraiser. Give to scholarships, give to the event. There's something in it for you if you're a business corporation. We promote you all year long, not just at an event. You become sort of a favored partner of ours. We've had to adjust in how we do our partnerships, and we've already had quite a few sponsors. So it's exciting to see that folks want to continue to give back. Nonprofits are being hit so hard during this, especially education nonprofits. I think folks are thinking, immediate needs, like housing and food, and students are over here unsure about continuing their education. So a donation to OJS, oh my goodness, it's keeping kids on the path we talked about, right? One way or the other. So thank you for reminding our audience that it is a fundraiser.
Absolutely. And for those of you watching, whether you're watching live on Facebook or you're going to watch this video later on YouTube, remember, organizations, youth-serving organizations like Operation Jumpstart, were able to pivot. And so, yes, they're still providing that engagement, that mentoring, that educational support that they're offering, but they're also responding in ways that do meet the urgent need as well. So we can't forget about that. Irene, this has been so awesome. I don't want to end the interview necessarily. I know I can keep you here longer, but let me ask you the very final question, and this is the question we've been asking pretty much everyone who's been a part of the series, is share with us what you do for self-care.
That's a great question, Carolina, and I hope that you're doing a lot of great stuff for self-care too. So, I know you're working so hard at TNP. I like to do a lot of quality time with my family, usually. Typically, that's my answer, but here I am all day long with my family. So it's a weird one for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on a really great road trip and go to see the Grand Canyon and keep my distance and disconnect from work once we're over the hump with our big event. And I've encouraged my staff to do the same. So we've given sort of of alternate sort of days off. We've given mental health days to our staff to veg out and disconnect and do nothing and be lazy if you want to be, or go to a protest if you want to. So we try to incorporate days where you really can just disconnect outside of the weekend even, because sometimes your weekends become crazy and busy. So I like to do that for me. I like to take days where I just focus on just doing nothing at all, and I'm going to do that with my family soon, and try not to check Slack for a whole week, which is going to be great, and truly set my away message on my email. And I think that really recharges, and no matter how passionate you are, like, you can really get burned out. So it's important for me to take a deep breath and step away. So that's what I like to do for self-care: recharge, disconnect, and I love to read books. I love to listen to music. I have 3 little ones, so my kids also sort of keep me active, and spending time in the pool with them is always really fun during this hot weather. So with them on summer vacation, just being with them in the backyard is self-care. So that's kind of the gist.
Excellent. Well, always the role model you are, Irene. Thank you. Thank you for all of this. Thanks for sharing what's been going on with Operation Jumpstart. And I know that there are other community leaders who can really resonate with what you're saying, and other folks. Thank you so much. Sending you a lot of great vibes so you can really disconnect and enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
And everyone, thanks for joining. Please don't forget to support Operation Jumpstart and sign up for their notices. Kind of keep on top of what's going on with programming, and how the new school year is going to start.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carolina.
Sure thing. Bye, everyone.